Hey, how's it going? So welcome to another video. Today I wanted to do something different as I mentioned before. Well, in the last video, I want to start making videos that I actually enjoy doing. Focus less on just random stuff that I feel that, might pop off. Just because those are boring to me, first of all. Why am I looking up? I should be looking at the camera. So yeah, we did a video. I don't know, I say we either, but I did a video last week on Mr. Toriyama, who unfortunately passed away. And it felt good to make a video like that. It made me actually focus on something that I enjoyed doing and, pay tribute to him, of course. I grew up with Dragon Balls, so I'm doing something similar today. I'm actually making a tier list, I suppose you can say, but I'm focusing on anime. I'm focusing strictly on anime that I've seen. That means I've completely watched it from the beginning to the end. So if you don't see something on this list, it's probably because I haven't finished it or I missed maybe like a season. But yeah, I want to go ahead and get started on this. This is a tier list, meaning we'll start from, let's say, worst or not worst, but least favorable to most favorable. And then I also have honorable mentions as well. I have my list here. I'm new to this. That's why I have the default pictures here. I'm not sure how to remove them, but I'll learn as we go on. If you have any questions or if you see something that should be here that's not here, let us know what you uh, would have preferred to see or even your list in the comment section below. But again, this is based only on shows that I've seen. Um, so I'll talk about them a little bit as well, but I don't want to make this video too long either. So let's go ahead and get started. Number 15, actually I have my list here for reference. At number 15, I feel that I would put Attack on Titan. So I know that a lot of people love Attack on Titan. It's probably their top 5. I love it as well. I really enjoy it. But to me, it seems like it's very kind of like not one-sided, but it's like one path, like it's you have these soldiers with their knives versus the titans. There's not much else. I do like that eventually they well, not eventually, but they do add special titans with special abilities. It does give it more of a, an extra juice, I suppose, for the show in itself, and it makes the story better. Eventually towards the end they kind of just try to bring everything in together, but it's just like this huge kind of like WTF moment that you're just like, wow, like you guys really went far on this. But yeah, I liked most of it. I feel like the beginning particularly was very interesting just because it was like this huge new concept. I saw a lot of merch popping off everywhere, and I realized that a lot of people liked it. I liked it as well. It just isn't my favorite. The next one is actually Full Metal Alchemist. Now, if only I can find the image. Here it is. Again, it was pretty interesting. I thought it was cool. Um, as we proceed on, you may notice that I don't recall a lot of the shows, and that's probably for a reason, right? It didn't really stick with me. Full Metal Alchemist, I just remember that it's basically two brothers that mess up on an alchemy. Eventually, it has. Well, I don't want to ruin it for those that haven't seen it, but basically, these two brothers go out looking for a way to fix the problem that they made off in the beginning, and it's kind of like their adventure. Of course, they go into battles and whatnot. But to me, again, it had more to offer than Attack on Titans, just because it has to do with like alchemy and spells and all that. So it gets a little more complicated, I would say. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. The next one for me is Jujutsu Kaisen. I watched the first season as soon as it came out, and then I watched the follow up season. I also want to mention that I don't read the mangas. I just watch the shows, mainly because it's easier for me to like work on school or work, and then have the show on the side. And then another thing, so that you can make sure to dislike this video, is that I prefer to watch the shows in dub, because again, if I'm working, it's hard for me to just keep turning back and forth to read what's being said on sub. Of course, I'd much rather prefer the sub language or the actual Japanese voice than English, but I use English stuff for preference and just for the ease of it, you know. Again, Jujutsu Kaisen, I enjoyed a lot, especially their abilities and how this guy gets possessed by the devil and whatnot. I also like the shadow pets that the one guy has. Again, as you can see, I don't remember much of it. It didn't leave too much of an impression, but I just remember that as I was watching it, I was like, this is pretty interesting. And I would like to go uh, and see where this goes as well. Let's move on to the next one. So, number 12, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I actually watched most of JoJo. I'm not sure what season they are on now, but I watched enough to be able to say, you know what, I can put this on the list. I watched, I think, the first 5 seasons. It goes from like the dad to like the son or to the cousin and the uncle and the brother or whatever. But it's very interesting how they each have their abilities and they basically fight the same guy or group of evil beings. What I enjoy the most is that the main character always fights um, those that become his friends. Meaning, you know, he starts off fighting random people that may seem like they're evil, and they probably are, but then later on they just start helping them. And it's pretty quirky and interesting because they have all these very interesting powers. They use them in interesting ways that you're just like, wow, I didn't think of that. And overall, I think the cartoon itself is just you know, unique in itself, that it left an impression on me. I stopped watching it after the daughter or the female protagonist, just because I did binge like 3 seasons, and I was like, no, I want to watch something else. Never got back into it, but I believe it's the female protagonist, and then it's might be even a new season after that. I haven't watched those last two. That's actually what happened. We're gonna move on. Ooh, where is this? Sword Art Online. I really liked watching Sword Art Online just because it has to do with video games and VR. I'm hoping that eventually we are going to get technology that's going to let us do that in a very, you know, awesome way, like they do. You know, they down, sit down, or whatever. They put on the VR and they're good to go. I'm also hoping that it's not one of those things where you play for 15 hours in the game and it takes up 15 hours of your day. Hopefully, it's like you play an hour and that equates to 5 hours of, you know, the VR. But I always enjoy the RPG type of animes where you level up and you equip things. So that was one of those that I really enjoyed watching. As you can see in the little tile, it's actually where Kirito's fighting the the shield or the shield master or clan master or something like that of one of the strongest clans, and he penetrates his like super shield, you know, and it was pretty cool. Now moving on to the next one, we have, where is it? Here it is, Fairy Tale. So Fairy Tale has a lot of seasons. I do remember that. Um, I would say that it's very interesting how they all have different abilities, and they basically use, I guess, what is magic. I believe it's magic that they use their special abilities. And then you have, I think, 6 or 7 unique characters that have bonds with dragons. Um, I can't remember if they inherited the powers just like that, or if they like bonded with the dragons and that's how they got their powers. I know that the main guy just happens to eat like one of the powers and then he gets the powers, or one of the dragon attacks and he gets the powers. My most unique moment, I would say, is when they were at the Coliseum and it was like the guilds fighting each other. And then you have the rank two, I believe, fighting like the rank three. It's like one of the, I think one of the saints. He's like this monk looking guy, and then the other guy's like this other guy starts with an M. He has a bunch of staffs, and then he summons like this super attack, but it turns out that it's not actually him. It's like a copy of him or something like that. He loses in a funny way, which I would have hoped that they would have actually done the full fight, but it is what it is. But it was, yeah, it was really good. All right, so the next one is actually Hunter x Hunter. Um, so for this one, it basically entails a group of friends. They don't start off together, but end up becoming friends. They go to like a tournament where they try to be basically some of the best fighters, I would say. Um, they go through this tournament where they have to defeat a bunch of people to prove that they're the best. The little kid in the icon named Killua, I don't know if you can see him in the icon or tile, but he's at the bottom right with the white hair. He ends up taking out like I think half of the competition off in the beginning, just by doing some special attack. Everybody, of course, sees him as little kids who are coming into this tournament, and then they figure out they're like one of the strongest one. The journey involves the main character Gon actually trying to I think seek his father out. The end of the season is it makes sense, and I feel like it went well, right? They finished it off, I guess, well. I just wish that they would have kept going. I hope eventually they do, but we'll see. Um, but yeah, it has a lot of memorable characters, especially Killua's family, which I believe are like vampires. They also have like this clown enemy who's a little weird, but he helps them out once in a while. Um, the next one is Demon Slayer. So I feel like Demon Slayer is very popular right now, especially among the younger generation. And I feel like this is a lot of like this is an opportunity for them to get into anime. It's kind of like their entryway into anime. For most of my generation, I think it was maybe Dragon Ball that got us in there. Um, uh, Aside from a couple other OG animes, but we'll get to that more later. And basically, Demon Slayer, I enjoy it just because it has again a lot of like story to it. It gives you a good story. Um, it establishes basically, these are our powers. This is how we get stronger. These are the enemies. Yes, we're outmatched by a lot, but they evolve and they progress, and then they end up beating their enemies. So it's still going. I can see this going for quite a while as well. I can't recall if initially they only plan to have kind of like 12 episodes in one season. That's usually what they do a lot of times. Or nowadays, they make an anime for only like one season, um, which isn't bad. There's some really good ones that you kind of want more. I feel like Demon Slayer was one of those that they just say, hey, this really um, went off, so let's go ahead and keep making more. And yeah, honestly, it's a really good show. I also recommend it. Now, the next one is actually Black Clover. Again, I enjoy watching anime shows where you progress and obviously you get stronger. That's in every anime, but this one specifically also has to do with guilds and magic. So this has to do this story has to do with the main character named Asta. He actually um, trains really hard to be strong, to be the best. Um, he realizes that he doesn't get a spell book unlike everybody else. They get chosen by a spell book or a magic book, and then that's how they focus on their special abilities, right? So Asta unfortunately has no magic reserve, so he has to basically force himself to become strong and train to get good and get better. But he gets a unique spell book or book, um, which goes to possess him and give him special abilities. His main ability is nullifying all magic attacks. So you'll see like really strong characters throw like these, super powerful attacks, and he'll just use his sword to kind of absorb it. And then later on, he gets even more abilities. It's pretty interesting. My most memorable fight there had to do with the Wizard King. That's actually Asta's goal, to be the very best that no one ever was. But yeah, the Wizard King, he's like one of the most powerful characters. He fights this other elf that's trying to challenge him. A few things happen here and there to where, he gets taken down, which kind of sucked, but it was a good fight, and I still remember it till now. But yeah, another good show. So the next one is One Punch Man. Why? Why is it One Punch Man? Why not? Honestly, this is a good show. It's very funny. It's unique. It's like the show says, one punch. He takes on anything in one punch. Um, it's funny in a way because he trained to become this strong, and now he's like the strongest being in the universe. There's like so much growth that he goes through. Um, Again, what I really enjoy is the whole ranking system and how there's tiers in the show of superheroes. He's like tier C, I think. Um, and basically, what happens is you take missions on to progress in rank. Usually, the most popular ones are the ones that are like higher rank, but in reality, there's those that are like tiers beneath them that are stronger. It's just that they're not as popular or like social media stars, right? But anyways, the main character Saitama, he starts off in tier tier C, I believe, and he's behind like saving the world so many times. It's like insane that he never really gets credit, unfortunately. But yeah, like everybody eventually acknowledges him, and they're like, okay, like we need Saitama to help us out. My favorite season would probably be the most recent one. I think actually the newest season might have come out already. I don't recall, but yeah, there's like a person that really wants to fight him. He gets knocked out like nothing, but eventually towards the end of the anime, or as it progresses, he becomes really strong and becomes his number one foe. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay, as we move on, we go to My Hero Academia. I feel like everybody has heard of this show, or seen this show at least. It has to do with a bunch of, well, first off, it's a world where everybody has abilities called quirks. I think 80% of the world has special abilities. And unfortunately, our main character is one that doesn't have an ability. His dream was to always be a superhero, because, they also have a federation of superheroes where they get paid, and they get tier lists, right, as well, to where the number one superhero sees our hero and says, you know what, you have what it takes to be a superhero. You don't need powers, but uh, this superhero himself actually transfers his powers over to the main character, and the main character, learns how to control it, learns how to do everything, and the whole show is basically him telling us how he became the number one superhero. So he does reach his goal eventually. They're still going through the show right now, but it has a lot of interesting characters. I'd say that it's interesting overall because of the characters that they have, the villains mostly. But yeah, my most memorable moment there is when the number one superhero, his name is All Might, goes to fight against this like genetically mutated being that challenges him. And the number one superhero basically goes all out, and you see like all the punches that he throws, and it kind of hypes you up. I feel like that's what a good show should do. So yeah, another one to watch there for sure. Okay, so we are at number 4. Number 4 is Bleach. Bleach is one of the OG shows that came out a while ago that kind of introduced and branched off to create newer shows. Bleach has to do with this one human being who sees, let's say, a spirit, right? And um, a hunter comes and kind of intervenes, which then introduces our main character Ichigo to the spirit world. So once he learns about the spirit world, he also learns that his family is part of it, and he learns how to do all these abilities. He's like half a human, half a hunter as well, and he just basically becomes very powerful. He becomes one of the strongest, if not the strongest character in the show, and he goes through a lot of challenges as well, trying to save the spirit world as well as his actual world. And it's very interesting the powers that they have. There's just so many characters. They have the Quincy, which used to be the arch rivals of all these hunters. And I can't believe I'm blanking out on the name, but yeah, all these hunters. Um, can I remember what the name is? If I not the name, give me 1 second. Hold on. So yeah, Ichigo is a Soul Reaper, which means they try to destroy all these monsters that just happen to transfer over to the human world. The first season kind of builds up to what the main story is, but I would say that the second season, I think it's the second season where he fights all these mass beings, um, from Hueco Mundo, I think it's the name of it, is where it gets a lot more interesting. The fights get heavier. The final fight is very interesting, but it's actually the most recent season that's dubbed the Thousand Year War that I feel is the best one, just because there's just so much action. Everybody's like overpowered. It's really good. I highly recommend it, which is also why it's really high on the list. So the next one as well, you can consider it anime, maybe not, but I'll consider it anime just because I feel like it is. Is where is it? Wait, I might have forgotten to add it. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Okay. So the next one for sure is Yu-Gi-Oh. Yep, Yu-Gi-Oh for sure. Why? I remember watching Yu-Gi-Oh since I was a little kid, and I remember watching it, waiting for the weekend to watch it as well. It was a very interesting show. Um, it had all these, you know, things intertwining, playing with the cards and whatnot. Basically, it has to do with our main characters that duel. That's their way of fighting. They duel with their cards to be all these enemies in order to, let's say, not lose their souls. Like that's like the primary thing, not lose their souls in a shadow duel. But you see how a lot of times our main character is like backed against a wall, and then out of nowhere he uses his phrase, the heart of the cards, to like bust one like straight out of his ass and win the whole game. But yeah, there's a card game that you can play in person, online. It's very interesting. There's been lots of seasons that really changes how the game is defined. But I would say the first one is probably the best season. Um, or maybe the second season where they have like this huge tournament and there's like these god cards, Egyptian god cards that are introduced as well. Um, yeah, there's just so many seasons. I feel like lately the latest shows pertaining to the protagonist haven't been as good, but my favorite overall was the first or second season. Number two, where is my list? Make sure I get this right. So number two for me, without a doubt, is Naruto. Why? Because again, we're introduced to different villages, different locations that basically are known as um, clans, and each clan has or village has their strongest character, which is named the Hokage or the leader of the group. He's like, let's say, the president, but he's also governed by the feudal lords or something like that, which also kind of tell them what to do. which like the president, he also has people that tell him what to do if you realize that or not. But it has so many strong characters, and it shows you how you can really be the strongest with enough persistence and hard work. Um, there's a lot of unique abilities, unique characters. There's really awesome moments where you're like hyped as well, which is again important for me. I feel like if I can feel it, if I can feel those emotions and be hyped, or like let's say I'm working and like stop working just to see the show because I'm like, wow, I'm like entertained or amazed, then that's what I look for in these anime shows that I have here in the tier list. And Naruto, honestly, it gets better and better up until the new show, which involves his son Boruto. Um, I would say my most memorable moment is when he appears to save his village after a long process of training. But then, of course, the latest war that they had, or the last war, is kind of very interesting because it introduces so many characters back. But yeah, definitely watch this show for sure. And then, last but not least, but probably not surprising, my favorite show of all time is Dragon Ball because I grew up with it. I grew up watching this just like Yu Gi Oh! Watching it at a young age, waiting to see the cartoons early in the morning. And I feel like it just has so much hype everywhere. Like you see all these transformations that you're maybe kind of like, really again? Or like, wow, like plot armor, or this and that. It's not as bad as Yu Gi Oh! For plot armor, believe me, but um, it just has so many hyped up battles, so many cool transformations. The lore is pretty good as well. Again, like I mentioned, Mr. Toriyama passed away. He was the creator of the show, but he did influence a lot of the shows that I put on the list. And funny enough, he often forgot about how his show was progressing. So there's a lot of movies that kind of like mess with the timeline and, are either true or not true. But yeah, I think overall Dragon Ball is the best anime I've ever seen. It's still going on, fortunately. I would say that Dragon Ball Z is probably the most memorable season or show that's part of the Dragon Ball universe that I enjoyed, just because you have so many great characters such as Frieza, Majin Buu, Cell, and then of course we got Dragon Ball Super, which I guess hyped up things a bit more. I kind of got out of hand, but it's like most of these shows, they go from being not necessarily weak, but not as strong to stronger to I don't know, we're just being like, multiversal out of this world. But yeah, this is basically my tier list here in this order. I would say I'm comfortable with. There's probably shows that I forgot. Um, but unfortunately, I didn't remember a lot of shows. There's just so much anime you can watch. To be honest, I feel like you can't really go too wrong. I do have a few more here. These are more of honorable mentions. So the most noticed one here is One Piece. The reason I put it here is because I haven't watched it all. I just watched it to where they save their friend Robin um, from like this association or society of like corrupt officials. Um, and I haven't gotten that far, to be honest. Initially, I wasn't too fond of the cartoon, the way that the cartoon is. They're all kind of like tall, skinny figures and whatnot, but it gets better. Of course, there's seasons that I heard you can even skip. I still have to go through it. I'll get there eventually. I know they have like well over 1,000 episodes, so yeah, I'll get there eventually. The next show is Code Geass or Guess. Um, it was a decent show, but to me, it was just honestly another anime show. There's those that love it, there's those that have it on their list, but for me, it wasn't. It was alright. We have Tokyo Ghoul, again, another decent show. Nothing too out of the ordinary for me, at least, or something that stuck out. And then, last but not least, we have Vinland Saga. It was something different, uh, something, let's say, normal in a way that there's not really special abilities. It's more of kind of just like training and regular hand-to-hand fighting, maybe with some weapons here and there. But yeah, these are my honorable mentions. There could be probably a list of 100. Maybe I'll make another video next time, but the video is already long enough. I thought it was going to be 10 minutes. I see that we're at 30 minutes or so, depending on the edits and whatnot. But yeah, I like making this video. I got to talk about things that I enjoy watching. Hopefully you enjoy this video. Again, let us know if your list. If you happen to watch the whole video, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Let me know what other topics you'd like to hear. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see what else I can come up with. But yeah, have a good one.